Hello, and welcome to take 2 of the Frivolous and Frugal Knitting Podcast. We are 2 sisters who share our fondness for knitting, the things that we create, and our love for the knitting community. And we do it all with the twist of both the frivolous and the frugal. And speaking of frivolous, that would be me. I am Frivolous Dawn, and in our family's birth order, I am the 4th of 8 children.
And speaking of frugal, I am Penny, and I am the oldest in the birth order. And you're going to hear us mention our dear sister, Faithful Nikki, and she is 3rd in our birth order of 8 children. So a hearty welcome to those of you who are returning viewers. We can't tell you how much fun it is to meet with you each week, and we're so glad you make time to join us. And we're hoping that you glean a nugget or two from our musings. And for those of you who are first-time visitors, we're so glad you're giving us a try. And as always, Dawn and I share what we learned, the things that we have discovered. And so we're hoping that 1 or 2 of those nuggets will be beneficial for you. So without further ado, grab your knitting, your favorite note-taking device, and your sense of humor, because, oh my goodness, you're going to need them all. So welcome to episode 45 of the Frivolous and Frugal podcast. Take it away, Dawn.
All right. So what's around your neck is usually our first segment. And I see nothing around your neck, Miss Penny. So what's up?
Well, that's because I'm sitting in front of the fireplace. And as if my personal summers were not nearly enough, my backside is very warm. So I put it to the side. I finished this week. So this is both an off my needles and what I'm wearing. The long clamshell. And as if you'll remember in episode 44, I did it with a lighter weight yarn for the recipient, and I made it with the long sides. This one I did in a bulky weight Lion brand Homespun, and I've got to tell you, Dawn, I think I'm going to knit one for myself. I love it, especially up here in the north where we get those cold winds. So I have to say that what I like about it is I have very fine silky hair. And in the winter, because it's pretty arid in the north during the winter, I get static in my hair all the time. And so this, unlike a hat, allows me to just literally flip it up over my head, and then I can use it as a shawl.
I like it. And I love anything that can protect my neck from cold air getting down it. That is perfect.
It is perfect, isn't it? So great. Pattern. It is called Clamshell. It's by Amy E. Anderson. And on this particular project, $1 on the frugalometer for both the fiber and the pattern. So I encourage you to try it. If you're a new knitter, this is a wonderful project, not only to perfect and get your gauge with knitting, but to learn increases and decreases. Very doable, well-written instructions. I recommend it.
And I think that's a good example of, it's one thing to see the pattern on a piece of paper. It's a totally different thing to see it dimensionally like that.
And I would tell you, Dawn, the pattern, the picture, I was a little bit skeptical because I didn't know if it would look kind of frumpy.
Yeah.
I'm sold. It's got to be one of my favorite winter patterns this year. Simple, great, functional. I love it. Very pragmatic.
I would agree.
What's around your neck?
And do I assume your mannequin in the back is wearing your first one? Is that right?
Yes. Monique has the first one. You can just tell by looking at her. Oh, I could not be a weather person. Oh, there I am. Looks like I have it right under her chin. Monique is wearing the lighter version in a heavier worsted. I would say it would be a great spring or fall head covering and scarf, which we could use in our windy part of the country. So yes, I like it, but I wanted to give the recipient an option. She can have either or both. Doesn't matter to me. I'm going to knit one for myself.
Very good. I need to put that on my list. That keeps growing. I am wearing
things this week that are growing. We'll get to that later.
Oh, so true, sister. Oh, so true. I am wearing Purless by Romi Hill. We
Mhm.
did this as part of a Mystery Mania class a couple of years ago at Magpie's Cottage in Sheboygan Falls. The yarn is simply delightful. The uncommon thread, Heavenly Decay, the colorway is Starlight. We purchased this yarn when we participated in Knit Stars 1, and I love it. And I gave Brianna the extra. And so I really like it. And then this is the shawl pin, or the shawl cuff, I think is its right title, that I got from that Etsy shop, the Felted Garden. And Marcia is delightful to work with. And we will be using some of her prizes she sent us in some upcoming giveaways. And then dear Ruby behind me is wearing the ugliest sweater ever knit in the history of time. Um, my one and only sweater, I'm going to guess 2012. It is knit, okay, hold on, Misty Alpaca worsted. It weighs 835 grams. And you can see the part of the mannequin shining through here. It's not supposed to. I know. The short rows have like these gaping holes, like I think your whole boob could fall out or something. Um, and the sleeves are like, 6 inches too long. And then I didn't know about alpaca that it grows when you wear it because it has no elasticity. So it may start off ending at your hips, and by the time you get home, it's a maxi dress. I am going to frog it.
I'm gonna need a maxi pad.
It's only funny when somebody else tells the story.
Woo!
It is bad. You should see it. And I thought I was so cool. What's up with that? I mean, literally, the underarm seaming is so bad. A stapler would have done a better job. I can't even look at it. Okay, so I am going to frog it. And don't cry. I know it's ugly, but it's not that ugly. And I was going to make it into a scrappy blanket, and Penny said, no, 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 you can't use alpaca for a scrappy blanket. So maybe it'll be scarves or hats, or maybe everybody next year for Christmas will get a ball of yarn.
I
Oh,
cannot wait. I really do think you have to include some nice close-up pictures in
no.
the Finish Fixer Frog It thread. Oh, I gotta see this.
No, you can see through it.
I know you can. Oh my goodness, Dawn. Oh, I need
Oh.
warnings before things like this so that I can properly add the right accessories to my wardrobe. Oh my goodness. Okay, so speaking of frogging it, I guess frogging is in the air because do you remember my Kevin Costner sweater? Which, by the way, the name of it is not Kevin Costner sweater.
Yeah,
It's he looks good in this
yeah,
sweater.
yeah, he
It's
looks good, period.
it's the Inishmeen, and I knit this for one of our sons. By the way, he lives hundreds of miles from us, so I just took his measurements and knit it. And he was here recently, so I had him try it on. All my measurements lined up, but when I put it on him, it looked frumpy. And
Oh,
I think I learned a couple things. Number one, he has a very athletic V shape. And
mhm.
so it just looked frumpy in the lower ends. And that turned him was too narrow for a guy. It really needs to be more. And I used a provisional cast on. So I'm just going to have to frog it all the way out to redo it. But I am going to try something new. And for those of you who are experienced garment knitters, you might just be rolling your eyes saying, "Ah, it's a breeze." But what I'm going to do is cast on smaller and increase up. All right,
Yeah.
because really the way the sweater looks on the pattern, it's just pretty. It's like very a column. I mean, you really don't do any increasing or decreasing. It's just knit in a column fashion. I'm going to try to do a little bit more tailoring because he's also added bulk to his chest and his back. And so it fits now, but it's not nearly as forgiving with as much positive ease as the rest of the sweater. So the sleeves fit to a T. We like the way the sleeves fit. So I'm going to leave those as they are, and I'm just going to frog the body. And one thing that you and I were talking about a few minutes ago, for those of you who are new knitters, you will notice that even before I finish a garment, I will show you the garment or whatever it is without tucking in my ends. And I do that in case I have to frog it. Much easier to frog it when nothing's been, the ends haven't been woven in. So that's a tip that I'd like to share with everybody. So did you tuck in your ends on your sweater?
Not all of them. So I've got some
Oh, good.
strings. So,
Oh yeah,
um,
835 grams of string, girl.
okay, maybe I glued them. I don't know.
You probably have duct tape somewhere and you just haven't seen it's on the backside.
Oh, and you know, when you're a new knitter, like you're so proud. It's like
Oh,
now you look back and think, ooh, yeah, yeah.
so what are you working on right now?
Oh,
What's
this
on your
is
knitting?
our Christmas Eve cast on. This is the row by row sampler sock by Irene Designs. I am loving every minute of it. I love the different textured sections. I love that you only do it for a couple of inches and then you're on to something else. Now, she has a heel flap and gusset as part of her pattern. I usually do fish lips kiss. So I've turned the heel and now I'm just working down the sock. And then I'm just keeping track of my rows here, every 10 rows, so I kind of know where I'm at. Love it, love it, love it. Now, I have blocked this a little bit, so that's why it's looking very nice. But gosh, there's in our Christmas Eve cast on discussion board on Ravelry, there's some finished pairs and they are spectacular. And some people are doing the Get Shorty sock. And
Yeah.
it's been fun. Irene's popped in there and helped some people. Some viewers have popped in and helped to answer some questions. So I love it, love it, love it.
And actually, Dawn, would you leave that up there so we can do a comparison? You will often hear us talking about the fight between the fiber, the pattern, and the color. And as you can see the pattern in my row by row, but not nearly as well as you can see it in Dawn's sock. And that has to do with her color choice. It is, as Miss Irene suggested, a tonal or a solid features the pattern better, but I think the lighter colors do a much better job. So since I will be keeping these for myself, I'm okay with that because I was knitting from stash and I didn't have any light colors. So there's just something for you to consider. And here's something that I don't know that we've mentioned before. I was looking for patterns this week. And when I was on Ravelry and on other sites, I looked at their sample. If I could not see the pattern on their sample, then I tried to imagine it in a different type of yarn. That has worked for me because I would say some designers have pictures of their items and they have fights going on between the colors, between the fibers, and by the patterns. So it took me a little bit longer to go through patterns, but I started doing that.
Yeah. I have a frivolous tip.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like
hold on.
Frivolous people need a tip. Okay?
Yes, you do. If you're going to knit fabulous socks, they need to live in a fabulous project bag. This is my very first Ho-He and Company bag.
Oh, look at you.
See the logo, Ho-He and Company? I love this little pocket. It has the perforations and it's for your enamel pins.
Your what?
Enamel pins. So like this is Mode Yarn sent me this when I bought yarn from them. And that way, you know, it sticks through and it doesn't snag your yarn.
Like an accoutrement that we're supposed to be collecting or something?
Yeah, we'll need to do a Frivolous and Frugal one. Okay, I know you're going to do a button and take a Sharpie and write F and F, aren't you?
No, I'm going to use a bread tie. Thank you. And I'll use floss to tie it in the hole.
Oh, and what's on your needles?
Oh, actually, I miscounted Christmas gifts. There should be I'm sure there's a drug for this and I just don't take it. I am doing a last minute Christmas hat And I'm using the Autumn Weaves pattern that we actually selected as our hat knit along in November that I wasn't able to do. And this particular hat is by Lindsay Facion, Facion, and it's a wonderful pattern. It was not knit originally in striped yarn, but I'm knitting all the sisters striped yarn hats. So that's what I'm using. And I'm knitting on a size 7 needle. And I am giving this fiber $4. And I'm reminding myself that the other 3 hats bled a little bit. So I'm putting vinegar in the water rather than doing the acid soak, citric acid soak. And hopefully I'll have it done, blocked, and ready to mail. Yeah, so that's what I'm
Oh,
working on.
nice. The only other thing, I guess, I'm actively working on right now is the new Stephen West shawl that came out December 26th. I picked the Winter Lights. It is called for a 4-color gradient, so you can see my first 2 colors. So this top portion will be my main color throughout. And then you're just seeing these little, I don't know what you would call them, rays, maybe like sun rays. I really like it so far. I just haven't had oodles of time to work on it. I'm using a US size 4, but I have to show you this yarn. I bought a gradient kit from Amanda Hope Yarns, and it's in the teals. This darkest one is tealy. I know it's looking almost black on the screen. I saw her posting on Instagram of this. So she's a new to me yarn dyer. She was delightful to work with, great service. Somebody else in our podcast bought the exact same kit and is much farther than I am. I'm just now working on section 2 and I'm about halfway through. This, as you notice, or you'll watch it grow here in the next month or so, it has some components of Slip Stravaganza. And so not nearly as big, only 4 skeins as opposed to 5. But this yarn, it says it's an Aussie fine merino. And I just like the feel of it. And the colors are spectacular. So I'm going to assume I will use her yarn again. Penny will include, the link in our show notes, as well as down below in the description bar to link to her. Follow her on Instagram. Her yarn is like, oh, yarn candy. I can definitely see using it again.
I'm sorry. I just got thinking we should encourage our viewers to follow the 3-Ply Podcast ladies on Instagram as well. And you will see not only on Instagram, but in their podcast, you'll also see Miss Joyce's After This Row tool that you can use for mapping out your patterns. And I forgot to mention that. So I'm so sorry. Just great podcasts, great women. You'll see lots of very, I want to say inspiring knits. So follow them on Instagram as well.
For sure. I copycat them.
Yep. They're leading the way.
Absolutely. I love it. Now, Penny and Brianna and I yesterday, or Christmas Day, not Christmas Day, New Year's Day, casted on the Tenacity wrap by Cold Comfort Knits. We only literally cast it on, so we have nothing to show you. We'll try to keep you updated to that every time Brianna joins us, so maybe once a month or so. It is a long rectangular wrap that's knit on a size 2 and requires 4 or 5 skeins. Yeah, so I did a little bit of math, and I think if we do 4 rows a day, we'll be done by the end of 2021. Or we will be inspired by Miss Brianna, who will probably lead the way. But we only started, we can't even tell you yet or show you anything that would even make you see the pattern yet. But if you want to join us, Tenacity is the name of it, and that's exactly what it will take to see it through to its completion.
And for our new viewers, you will hear us talk about Miss Brianna. We call her Fearless Brianna. She is our niece, and she is the daughter of number 7 in the birth order. And you have got to go back and look at the episodes that have her name in it. Just a college age student, not just, she's a college age student who is literally fearless when it comes to knitting. And you will be amazed at what she's done. So Please check it out.
Oh, and the other thing we're doing with Tenacity is we're going to try the Prim needles. So
Oh, that's
those new
right.
ergonomics. So as soon as I get them to you guys, you can do the needle switch.
Yeah, and we'll let you know what we think of them. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? Yeah.
Absolutely. All right,
Well,
so maybe we should do a quick review, huh? Of look back
yes.
at 2020 and look forward to 2021 as far as our knitting is concerned. Um, I put my knitting goals on my Ravelry profile, which I'm not so sure is a good idea. Um, but then no, you can always go in and change them and nobody would ever know.
Yes. No, they wouldn't, nor would they care.
Exactly.
And if they care, then we need to give them some other things they need to care about instead.
So
Oh,
here were my goals for 2020. I wanted to do 6 shawls, 3 of them being Melanie Berg, and I was able to do that. I ultimately did 15 shawls. Now, that number can be a little deceiving because some of them I may have started like in December of 2020 or 2019. So
well, you didn't start 9 of them in December.
that's
Oh
true.
my goodness, Dawn.
And
That's
of
very
course,
good.
some of them big, some of them small. So
Mhm.
and then some in between. I also had a goal of 12 hats by 12 different designers. And of course, you're my inspiration for that with your 45 hats, 45 designers. I was able to do that. Um, and then I wanted to crank on my circular sock machine 50 pair of socks. And on December 31st, I finished pair 50. So
Yay!
I made that
Good
goal.
job.
Now, another kind of ambiguous goal is just to keep working on a scrappy blanket. So I'm doing the corner to corner crochet blanket. It would be nice if I could get that done this year, but we'll see how that, I kind of do, my time on that waxes and wanes.
Mhm.
So the bigger the blanket gets, then I have to work probably more in the cooler months than
I
in
have
the
a
warm
real
months.
quick question, Dawn. What size fiber are you using? I forgot to ask.
Oh, on my corner to corner, I'm holding 2 strands of fingering, one solid through the whole thing. It's a gray. And then all my scraps I've put into magic cakes.
Got
And
it.
we did a magic cake exchange at Magpie's Cottage. Was it last year or the year before?
Mhm.
And I've been using some of those, which is nice, colors that I normally wouldn't knit with. And then I still have like 4 or 5 of those cakes. So otherwise I send Penny most of my um, leftover sock yarn so she can do her alliteration scarves. Um, one of the other things I wanted to try was colorwork mittens. So I did do a pair of Selbu mittens. Love that. Should probably do another pair. I also wanted to attempt a brioche shawl for my obsession with brioche, and I knit 2 brioche shawls. So it
Oh,
was
and
good.
they were beautiful. They
Yeah.
were beautiful.
The first one just had a little bit of brioche in it, and then of course I did sizzle pop, which was
Oh,
my oh
magnificent.
God, it was, I wanted to do that for so long. And then the one goal I did not meet was I wanted to use all the yarns that I'd purchased at ZK or Stitches Midwest in the previous years. I thought I had it and I found a skein when I was going through my stash. So I'm one skein short of that goal. And it really helped not to go there this year with all those being canceled because it allowed me to use up some more yarn. So
Cool.
on Ravelry, my goal for 2020 was to complete 100 projects. I did complete 110. And then here's the number that blows me away, and that is on Ravelry, if I did this right, and somebody tell me if I didn't, um, it said that in 2020, I knit 57,406 yards.
Oh my.
Yeah, do you think that's
God.
right? I even had Steve add up my projects because that seemed a little outrageous to me.
Well, you had some significant shawls that were quite large. They used up an awful lot of yardage.
Yep. And I bet those 50 pair of socks, don't you think? Yeah. So
Yeah,
maybe
that is
that's where,
crazy, Dawn.
yeah. So that is
Wow.
crazy. So to blend into my 2021 goals, they're very similar, but I'm going to keep track on a Microsoft Excel document how much yarn I knit versus how much yarn I buy. I have no concept. If I look back at 57,000 yards, that's probably 140 skeins. I,
Some of us don't even have 140 skeins in our stash.
yeah,
Oh
okay.
my goodness. Oh my goodness.
I used to, I don't anymore. Um,
Oh, you only have a, never mind.
but if I had to guess, I bet I bought that much because there is no difference in my stash when I look at it as far as how much is there. So I don't, I'm not going to say I'm not going to buy as much yarn as I knit or anything because I don't know. So I just
Right.
need to be educated. So in a year's time, I'll be able to make a decision. Um, do I need to just keep doing what I'm doing or do I need to make some adjustments?
Or
So,
could it be too that this might be a way for you to understand how to more functionally curate your stash?
yep.
So, for instance, how many one offs did we buy? I have single skeins of fingering weight that are just so hard to match up with anything else. I don't know what I was thinking when I did that. If I were to curate a better stash, I think I would look at the number of fibers that I have in sizes and colors and try to be a little bit more intentional with that. I don't know.
Uh,
Maybe you don't have a problem with that.
Oh, I've got lots of one-offs. That's why I'm liking these scrappy projects, or like the cowl I did last week, the color shift, because that just uses lots of different colors that blend together. Um,
Yes.
but otherwise, I find myself liking one-off, but then I have to buy a solid or a tonal to go with it. So
Right.
yeah, and I probably should. I don't know if I should or not. Keep track of the yarn I give away.
I think you should because you give away huge amounts. I mean, you don't
Yeah,
you don't send a package to Miss Brianna or I without stuffing in a hint of something. Cool.
I
Or
love it.
hints. I know you do. Like I said, oodles at times before, you have the gift of giving like no one I've ever seen.
Oh, bless your heart. I do love to give,
I
and
know you do.
probably with the Freudian little, that means I can buy more.
Ah,
um, yeah, so then my goals for 21 are similar. I'm going to try to knit 6 shawls again. This time, at least 2 Melanie Berg, but also I'm going to try 2 new designers to me. I don't know who those are going to be, but I want to make sure I don't get into a rut of knitting the same people, although I love, virtually anything she puts out. But so I'm going to do the 12 hats. I put hats slash cowls because
mhm.
I definitely have been doing more cowls lately. Keep working on my blanket. Based on your inspiration, I'm going to try 12 ornaments.
Cool.
So I don't know if those will all be Arnie and Carlos
Mhm.
ornaments or other ones that come up, but yeah, I'd like to try that. I always like to learn a new technique. And this year, my technique I want to try to get a better grip of is double knitting. So I have the Craftsy class I'd purchased with Lucy Neatby. I've been able to sit in a class of hers too, which was phenomenal. So I did nothing with it after I took the class. So I need to refresh. I have no idea what I'll do, whether it'll be a simple project to start with, I'm sure, but I would like to get better at not only doing it, but understanding it and reading it. And so that will be my
Absolutely.
goal for the year.
Whew, I aspire to be like you. My goodness.
Yeah, you may not, you may want to rethink that statement.
No, I'm not so sure. Um, I'm going to wrap up what I learned this week with my goals, if that's all right, because being frugal, I always like a twofer if I can get one. That is looking back at the year in review, I got a gut check and a reality check. I had very lofty aspirations for 2020, and I didn't even come close to them. I'm not even going to bore you with the details because I did not even come close to them. I have no concept of how long it takes me to knit an item. I have no concept whatsoever. And so that was my reality check that, whoa, maybe, just maybe, as our brother said last night during knitting with the aunties, the uncles, the cousins, the in-laws, and everyone else, I was asking the wrong question to choose or identify my goals. So my goals are similar but yet different than yours, Dawn. So because I am a visual learner, I created a knitting notebook. and it has dividers in here. This is just a cartoon with a beekeeper in bed with his wife, who is a teacher. And he's asking and saying to her, oh, so it's okay for you to be grading papers while we're in bed. For those of you who don't know, my husband's a beekeeper. Anyway, I put in dividers by the month, and I have actually filled and inserted the patterns that I hope to be working on during that month. So it just goes on and on and on.
That's brilliant.
I hope to do. So essentially, here are my goals. So I think they make sense to me. So if they don't make sense to you, call a timeout and I'll explain. Rather than, for me, putting number of projects in, because that gets overwhelming for me, I have decided that this year I'm going to continue my challenge, buy no yarn in 2021. So I want to knit from stash. Now, as you all know, if we have a grandchild come up or we have a wedding, of course I'm going to buy yarn, right? But for the most part, I want to knit from stash. And my other goal is to make sure I put all my projects and pictures in Ravelry, because unlike my illustrious sister here, she could total her yardage because she does that. It's hard to total yardage when you don't put your projects in Ravelry. So that's another one of my goals. My other goal is to complete my granny stripe blanket, which is a crochet scrappy blanket. Mine's in worsted weight yarn. And I am probably getting pretty close to stopping the rows and then starting the border. Once I finish that, I'm going to cast on a Bits and Bobs blanket, and that was a pattern by Kay Jones. So I hope to do that. And then this is what I think is earth shattering. So if it's not, shake anyway, like it is. Okay. I am no longer going to knit the big knitted gift items for Christmas.
Oh.
I am not going to do it. I am going to switch to knitting for birthdays. And by the way, that was a suggestion of one of our viewers. And so I'm going to try that this year. It will be very different for our family, both positive and negative. Number one, they will likely get it closer to on time than they do anything right now. And the downside is Christmases will look different, because the other goal is I am only going to knit ornaments and hats for everyone at Christmas, because I give individual ornaments for the families and then for the grandchildren so that they have a collection of their own ornaments. And so from now on, I'm hoping it to be only knitted ornaments and then a hat and or a cowl of some type. Yep. So those are my goals. Hoping I get much closer than I did in 2020, because I was humbled big time.
Well, and yeah, I go back to goals are just that.
Yes.
You know what? They're adjustable, and there's goals we make that we don't know what the year is going to look like. So, you know, our new pattern's going to come out that will make me want to change, or a new technique I learn about that I want to learn. So they are a guideline for me.
Oh, and you know what I just thought about, Dawn? Have you seen an Instagram? And I saw this with the 3-ply ladies, the 9 projects you want to knit in 2021.
Yeah,
Number one,
9.
I don't know how to make that collage in Instagram. I got to figure that out. Which, by the way, ladies, thank you for sharing your ideas. And we saw that you're all knitting the same sweater. We saw that. We look forward to seeing it. But I'm thinking even in that, it causes me just to sit back and decide how to judiciously use my knitting time, because that has reduced itself in the last few months. I don't have the knitting time that I used to. So how am I going to do that more judiciously if I really want to try and meet my goals? So,
and you know, one thing you and I have talked about in the past is that you feel pressure to do what everybody else is doing.
right. Mm-hmm.
I definitely have that, you know, the old fear of missing out, have to do what everybody's doing. But you're going to try to stay focused on your goals and not get, what I think of is you're not going to get caught up in the hype of do what everybody else is doing.
Right. And so maybe it is a type of FOMO, because if I'm knitting it with everyone else, then I can engage in the conversation, and it creates a camaraderie, right?
Right.
And so I'm not afraid of missing out, but I enjoy participating, right?
Right.
I just don't think I can do that because of how I've defined my knitting. So my knitting is not only an art and a hobby for me, it's an expression of my love. So my gifts are knitted. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So I'm going to try. Call me out if I get off track. I don't care. Yeah, because I'm sure I will, which is why if you want to be my coach and cheerleader and personal assistant and my whatever, you're hired. I just know that I don't pay very well or at all.
I was going to say, I don't pay anything. So, but knitting's what we love and that's what we share,
Absolutely.
which is why I love our virtual knit nights. Everybody's working on something different. A few people may be doing the same thing, but it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
We're there
No,
because we share our love for knitting. So yeah, I love that. That's the common thread that brings us all together.
And thank you for bringing that up, sis, because you know what? If you have not joined us for a virtual knit night, you're in for a treat. This coming Saturday, January 9th, from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time is our January virtual knit night. It is 2 hours jam-packed of nothing but knitting, inspiration, encouragement, sharing, instruction. It's crammed full and it's wonderful. And those of you who have attended know that we have an overarching principle, and that is choose your own level of participation. So if you just want to sit on and mute yourself, you're welcome to do that. You don't have to chime in. But if you want to chime in, we invite you to do so. We have 2 guiding questions for this coming month. And the first question that we always kick off the evening with is what's on your needles and or what's off your needles. We invite all the participants to share. And at the same time, if you have questions, it's a great place to get questions answered. In fact, I have to say the December knit night was so cool because 2 questions were posed and people brainstormed and offered ideas. It was a great evening for that.
Mm-hmm.
The second question that we'll be posing to the group is what are your 2021 knitting goals? And maybe you don't have any, and that's fine. Maybe you might want to ask us why we have goals or what is the purpose. That's all welcome. It's just knit based for 2 hours. So please join us for that. And I think as it comes for announcements, sis, the only other thing we have is that our next giveaway is going to be from YouTube. So you'll want to make sure you watch episode 46, where we will give you the question that you'll need to respond to in our discussion thread below the podcast. Once we do that, then the winner will be announced in episode 47. And our next drawing from the FinishFixorFrogItKAL will be in episode 48. And, Dawn and I talked about this before, but as usual, we didn't clarify it before we got on. We will likely draw from the Christmas Eve cast on, from the hats knit along at some point, and from the New Year's Day cast on. So if you're active, there's a chance you'll get a gift. So please join us if you were not already involved. Did I miss anything other than what our dear sister Nikki would say?
Nope. And I do think I think we've sent all of our packages out for winners. So if you haven't gotten something, always feel free to let us know or remind us, because I would feel badly if we had oversight and missed somebody.
Absolutely. Especially if I was the one sending it to you, as my sons will tell you. It'll get there when it gets there.
That's right. Oh, too funny. So what would Nikki say?
Actually, it's right in line with our goals discussion, Dawn. And just let me remind you, Nikki does not knit. She is a golfer in her 40th year of teaching, but she has acquired an understanding and delight in our knitting. And so we're very grateful for that. And she's part of the Knitting with the Aunties Friday evening virtual knit night. This week, she says, take a deep breath every so often and ponder your options, AKA frog it, right? Because with enough time and thought, you can figure it out. Don't give up. especially those of you who are new to the fiber arts. If something doesn't look right, step away from it. Think your way through it, or better yet, post the question on one of our threads, and I have a hunch you'll get an answer. Yeah. So we are so grateful that you joined us again for episode 45. We're looking forward to seeing you in episode 46. And until that time, we're hoping that your week is a sweet twist of the frivolous and frugal. Have a wonderful time. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.